of arrears on garbage collection. Now, what is the latest situation? Because you said it was unfair last week, according to an article in the newspaper, and that VINLEC or the authorities should be moving to collect all these monies, some over $800, sorry, and or between $800 and over $1,000. Now, on the other hand, in the Searchlight newspaper of last week, the CEO, Mr. Garth Saunders of CWSA, he was saying, well, he is appealing to those who have been so affected to either to come in person or to write to the CWSA to make arrangements in settling these outstanding balances. What is the latest position? Have you met with these people? Do you know if they're really...
I've spoken with many people who are affected, because many people are affected. There's the situation is one where it's simply unrealistic. People are not going to be able to pay these kinds of funds that they're talking about. You're talking about $860. That is probably a minimum of what is owed. Some people, if you have 2 meters on your home because somebody is living upstairs and somebody downstairs, then it's double. It doesn't matter if anybody was living there or not. There are some houses that have been vacant for years, and they have accumulated arrears of $860. Nobody is there to pay them. And what I've urged and I will continue, I'll use this opportunity to do, and this is all part of the accountability. I'm glad you raised the issue, because, you know, part of it is finding out essentially what the status of the solid waste management unit is with respect to its own finances, and whether this is all part of simply trying to, you know, use whatever lever it can to get funds out of taxpayers rather than having it come from government to meet government services. Right now, it's not just Bequia, it's the Lower Grenadines as well, and I think from the solid waste management unit, or at least from CWSA, there is an estimate that something like 90% of the people have not been paying the fee. You know, I remember years ago, not so long ago, I can't remember exactly when solid waste management unit started, but I think it was probably around 2007, 2008. Prior to that, the garbage was collected by the Ministry of Health, and this was paid for out of general taxation. And at some point, an arrangement was made where CWSA was made responsible through the solid waste management unit for the collection of it, but no arrangement, it seems, was made for the payment of it, except to expect the consumers in Bequia to pay for it. And this was something that was not explained. It wasn't something that people had expected or know anything about, because they had never, it was paid for, it was collected by the Ministry of Health. And this is now a situation that has many people who have not paid, have not received bills either, because they have been very sporadic in the way they've sent out their bills. And it's just simply what people are saying now is that, and I support, is that the fair thing to do and the practical thing to do would be to say, okay, the government has introduced last year in August legislation which tied electricity to the collection of the garbage fee or the environmental levy. And so that they are being more rigorous now in sending out their bills and in letting people know what the consequence of it is, and that they should start with a clean slate and go forward. And people are going to understand now, going forward, that they are required as part of the service provided by CWSA, which, you know, they're always associated with water, because that's what most people are saying. Why am I getting a water bill? You know, I don't get any service from CWSA, because the garbage collection was already provided prior to CWSA sending them a bill. So the practical thing, the fair thing, would be to initiate a program now where they will educate the people. They should come down to the Grenadines, actually. I am inviting Mr. Saunders to come down. I will host a meeting with the community in Bequia and the Lower Grenadines, and come and explain to people what it is going forward, why the situation has become how it is. I mean, if 90% of the people have been in arrears, there is a problem that is not just the people's problem. It has become a problem of CWSA as well. So that is what I would recommend. And I will help to organize such a meeting. I think there'll be a lot of interest in that in the community, and I urge him to accept that invitation, and I will open it as soon as possible.
Has there been any official representation to the CWSA on your proposal? Not just the meeting, but to wipe off, so to speak, those balances?
Not formally. I mean, I have in the past made that recommendation, but I am now inviting, I would rather have it where other members of the affected members of the community are present so that they can see, you know, I mean, you have people who are on fixed incomes, they simply cannot pay it. And to say, well, come and we'll take $10 a month for you for the next, God knows when, until you die. You know, it's not practical. And it's simply, at this time, where people are actually watching the clouds and hoping that we get rainfall, right now, this is what is happening. Because they have to spend $300 to get one load of 1,000 gallons of water. And CWSA provides absolutely no assistance in that regard. In fact, if you have nobody in Beckwith last year, that's what happened. There were people who, the drought was so long that a lot of people who used to sell or give water, they had none to give. People had to come up here and buy the water from CWSA, and they had to pay for it. Then they had to pay to transport it down on the boat, and then they had to pay to transport it home. I know one woman who, she said she's paid over $1,400 herself. And how much water did she get? You see, these are some of the real hardships that you have that I think that people are not quite factoring in. And when the CWSA simply says, listen, you haven't been paying it, so now we're going to cut your electricity off. I mean, that is just rubbing salt in the wound as far as I'm concerned. It's callous.
I have two more questions, if I may, Doc, and they have to do with the last general elections. One issue just before the elections and one arising out of the elections now. The first one has to do with the matter of the citizenship of Sir Louis when into the elections. Are you still pursuing that issue? Is it still a live issue, or has it been clarified?
Well, we haven't had satisfactory proof of it. We have heard statements that was made by the Prime Minister in the House about what he was told by Sir Louis and so on. It's easy to present proof of the renunciation, and we haven't seen that. So until that is provided, no, it's not a matter that is satisfactorily settled.
So you'll be pursuing it going into another elections, possibly?
Yes, as best that we can. There are limitations, but we are working very hard to make sure that the laws of the country, it's not just a matter about Sir Louis, it's about the laws of the country.
And, finally, this has to do with the matter of an application by the NDP or lawyers representing the NDP seeking a fiat to institute private criminal complaints against Mr. Games, the returning officer, Winston Games, of Mr. Winston Games of the Central Leeward constituency. Now, the DPP has refused that to grant that fiat. Is the NDP going to challenge this refusal? What is the situation currently? Well,
a lot of it has to do with what is practical legal strategy. There are certain things that you can do. You can challenge and make a judicial review application and so on, but you could also make a similar application again. And the main thing is to, as you know, the whole requirement of having a fiat came about after the 2010 elections, right? When the law was changed, the Criminal Procedure Code was changed following challenges that were made in the elections, coming out of the elections proceedings. And to make it now a requirement that in order to proceed, you have to get essentially permission of the DPP to file a private criminal prosecution. Our lawyers are continuing with the matter, that's what I will tell you now. And applications will be made, and I don't want to go any further with that at this point.
Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you, Dr. Friday. We're going to be, Honorable Matthews will also be adding some comments to the presentation.
Thank you very much, Laverne, members of the press. Now, my comments are going to be solely on the presentation made by Dr. Friday earlier. Now, in our constitution, there are two positions that are constitutionally enshrined. This is the Director of Public Prosecution and that of the Director of Audit. We have heard so much, especially from, I think about 2008, about the DPP and his role and so on, especially when a lot of us were introduced to the term nolly-pros. Apart from that, we haven't been hearing much about the other substantive position of the Director of Audit.
That's true.
Now, I'm not going to talk so much about the DPP, but in particular with the Director of Audit as it comes to national accountability. At the same time, we have hundreds of millions of public monies that are being spent. We are hearing nothing about the DPP. We're not even hearing from government
The Director about it, yeah.
about what is the position with regard to these monies by the Director of Audit. At the same time, we have hundreds of millions of debt being incurred. Debt that every year of this country is causing more taxes and lower real wages and more hardships on Vincentians. Nothing from the Director of Audit. Also, last year, and Dr. Friday mentioned it, the IMF told us about hundreds of millions of Petro-Carib monies are hidden from the national debt. And no account is given, and hence I joined Dr. Friday in, it is time now for the Director of Audit to lend us an ear on this matter. It's very important, and we need to know what the Director of Audit is thinking in all of this. Ashford asked a question about earlier on about the NDP and what are we going to do. The question should really be, why is the government of this country breaking the law? It is evident based on the laws quoted by Dr. Friday of the Finance Act and also the laws governing the Director of Audit. And the government of this country on a regular basis continue to break the laws of this country, especially with regards to its financing. As a party, as a responsible party in opposition, we consider it our duty, and what you have here today is the beginning of a process where we will be holding the government accountable, because we believe that the people want to know what is happening. As Vincentians, we have been on a regular basis every year. We have taxation of various sorts. This is our 16th year of the ULP administration, and interestingly, 16% of value-added tax that we have to pay. And as a people, we need to ask questions. And the opposition, the New Democratic Party, as a party of the people, we are starting the ball rolling in asking the government serious questions with regard to government finances. Thank you.
And just to add a bit further, because we're talking here essentially about democracy, right? It is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance. We have different responsibilities of the Director of Audit, the responsibility of the Accountant General. And there's our responsibility as the opposition. But also in a democracy, there's a responsibility of the people. So it's also to get the people to take this very seriously. You're entitled to have a reckoning. And it's not a matter of just simply saying, trust us and we will do the best for you. And so what the people have to do as well is to urge and to demand that there is accountability in accordance with the laws we have outlined here. And we will be taking this message and call to the people.
Thank you very much, Dr. Friday and Honorable Member Matthews. Indeed, today we have brought to the fore several serious issues facing us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as it relates to accountability. And we await answers to the questions posed today. Thank you so much to the members of the press who came out, and thank you as well to the persons listening via radio. I believe that the program will continue very shortly. Thank you so much. Also remember that there will be a town hall meeting tomorrow in Central Leeward, so you're invited to come out. It starts at 7 p.m. at the Barley Community Center. I believe that that's all the announcements for now. Oh yes, my apologies. The Youth Convention is also happening this Sunday in North Winwood at the Langley Park Primary School. So the Young Democrats will be electing a new executive. So come on out and join in, get involved. Youth work is actually very crucial. So we will see you tomorrow and also on Sunday. Thank you once again for joining us.